Okay, let's unpack this. We have a truly unique mission today.
We do.
You've brought us this fascinating look into the lives of 6 specific women from your family history. And it's all because you're preparing this really powerful family experience for Laura Dye and her siblings.
Right, at the Gilbert, Arizona temple.
Exactly.
And our goal today isn't just to, list off a bunch of names and dates.
Well,
It's to get you straight to the heart of their stories, to give you that context and connection that's going to make the whole experience so much richer.
and these 6 lives, they connect you to this incredible arc of American history. We're talking nearly a century and a half.
It's an amazing span of time. We're looking at lives that started way back in 1850, in the fallout of the Civil War, and stretch all the way up to 2007.
The modern digital age.
Yeah.
It's just a remarkable sweep, and it's all right there in your own heritage.
So, to organize this journey, we've grouped the women by the common ancestors you share. There are 2 different family branches here, but we're going to start with the 4 women connected through Vincent G. Smith and Elizabeth Robertson.
Your great-great-great-grandparents.
That's the one.
And these 4 women, their lives are really anchored in the 20th century, mostly in Texas, but their stories are surprisingly different when you start to dig in.
They really are. And we'll start with the 2 who joined this family line through marriage.
Okay.
2 women who married into the Smith family, and really link your lineage to these different slices of the 20th century Texas experience.
First up is Ami Bell French.
Mm-hmm.
She was born in Montgomery, Texas in 1909, and Ami lived for an astonishing 97 years. She passed away in Pasadena, Texas in 2007.
97 years. I mean, just pause on that for a second. That is living history right there.
It really is. She saw the invention of flight become, global space travel.
And she married Hugh Vincent Smith back in 1928. They had at least 2 kids, Hugh Dwight and Lois Marguerite. Her entire adult life, really, from that point on, was just defined by the huge crises and booms of the 20th century.
And we see that adaptability right away in the records, don't we? She moved around quite a bit.
She did.
I mean, she's in Montgomery, Texas in 1910, then up in Bloomington, Oklahoma by 1920.
And then back to Texas.
Right, moving through Hidalgo, Karnes, and Kennedy counties in the 30s and 40s.
That early mobility, that's a key insight right there. If you're a young adult during the Great Depression, you often had to move to find work.
Sure, wherever the opportunity was.
Exactly, whether it was in the oil fields or, farm work. So the ability to just pull up roots and cross state lines, that speaks to a real pragmatic kind of resilience. But what's really powerful from her record is the stability that comes later.
Okay.
The 1950 census finds her settled in Kennedy, married to Hugh, with their daughter Lois. So after 2 decades of just national chaos and moving around, that family unit held firm.
So that stability, after all that upheaval, that's kind of the core theme of her story.
I think so. It's a really strong anchoring point.
Okay, so let's look at another woman from that same line, also connected by marriage. This is Mary Catherine Sneed Elliott.
Born in 1910.
And she married Alvis Elton J., who's a distant relative in that same Smith-Robertson family line.
Right. And Mary lived until 1985. So like Ami, her later life was really centered in Texas, specifically San Antonio.
Yeah, she was living there by 1950, and that's where she passed away. But here's where it gets really interesting with Mary.
The occupation.
The occupation. The records list her as a stenographer.
And that little detail is just gold. It immediately sets her experience apart from so many other women of her generation.
How so?
Well, the role of the stenographer or secretary, it exploded during and after World War II.
Right, when women were entering the workforce in huge numbers.
In massive numbers, especially in these white-collar administrative roles. And think about where she was. San Antonio.
A major hub.
A major hub that boomed after 1945, with all the military bases and the increased industrialization.
So she wasn't just, living through that post-war prosperity. She was an active part of the workforce that was driving it.
Precisely. She was navigating an urban world, likely working outside the home, building a career in a way that it wasn't that common for the generation before her.
So when you think about them, Ami and Mary, for your family experience, you're really looking at 2 very different paths taken during the exact same historical window.
Exactly. If Ami's life shows resilience through movement and family stability, Mary's life shows resilience through, professional integration and adapting to that modern urban workplace.
Okay, so now we're going to shift a little bit. We're moving to the direct blood relatives.
Right. The women who share those same 3rd great-grandparents, Vincent G. Smith and Elizabeth Robertson.
We're going from those connected by marriage to those connected by blood. And let's start with Ruth Elizabeth Smith, born in 1913.
Ruth Elizabeth is a direct line relative, and just like Ami, she had an incredibly long life. She passed away in 2009.
Wow, so she saw the new millennium.
She did.
She was born in Cleburne, Texas. But what seems to really anchor her story is permanence. She marries Ray Cooper Bauckham in 1934 and then lives for nearly 6 decades.
59 years.
59 years right there in the Fort Worth area, raising 3 children.
That stability, that's really Ruth's signature contribution to your family history. Think about the timing. She got married in 1934.
Smack in the middle of the Great Depression.
Exactly. So the immediate challenge for her early married life wasn't just, some general economic hardship. It was this specific grinding challenge of starting and raising 3 kids, Robert, Ray, and Sarah, during a decade of systemic poverty.
You mentioned stability, but I have to ask, living in one place for almost 60 years, could that also suggest maybe a lack of opportunity compared to someone like Ami, who was crossing state lines?
That raises a really important question. But in the 1930s, staying put often was strength.
Okay, explain that.
It meant you might own land, you had local support networks, family, church. You were resisting that pressure to become a transient worker moving from place to place. Her life in Fort Worth reflects that really tight-knit family structure that acted as a buffer against all the national chaos.
So the permanence wasn't a limitation. It was more of a deliberate choice for safety.
For safety and for family continuity, she was quite literally the bedrock for her descendants.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes that commitment to a place really meaningful.
It does.
Okay, our 4th woman in this group is Lois A. Smith, another direct blood relative, born in 1910.
So Lois is almost an exact contemporary of Ruth and Mary, but her story starts in a dramatically different place.
Right, she was born in Tucumcari, Quay, New Mexico.
Yeah, but she was in Texas by the time she was 9, living in Yoakum in 1920, and then later on in Edinburgh in the 1930s. She passed away in 1997. Lived to be 86.
Lois's story feels like it's about transition, a bit like Ami's.
It is, but her life also spans this incredible technological leap of the 20th century. Born out west during a period of really rapid industrial expansion, New Mexico was still pretty new territory, she moves to South Texas as a young girl. And while she definitely navigated the Depression, just like her cousins, her life stretches right into the modern digital revolution.
She died in 1997.
Yeah?
So she was alive when, Netscape was a huge deal and the first sort of widely available cell phones were appearing.
Exactly. When you look at Lois, you see someone who witnessed the world go from horse-drawn buggies to the commercial space age. She connects your heritage not just to that era of poverty and war, but to the very, very edge of the information era.
Her 86 years are really a testament to adapting to constant accelerating change.
It really is.
So if we kind of pull this first group together, Ami, Mary, Ruth, and Lois, we're seeing 4 really distinct sides of 20th century American resilience.
That's a great way to put it. You have mobility for opportunity, professional engagement, that unwavering stability of place, and then this adaptation to incredible technological change.
That's a perfect summary.
Yeah.
But now we have to rewind the clock a lot.
Dramatically. We're leaving that 20th century Texas stability far behind and traveling back to the 19th century, and a completely different ancestral line.
Isaac Love and Mary Lewis.
Yep. These next 2 women faced a far more raw and turbulent time in history.
These women are really the pioneers. They're the ones who established the foundation that all those 20th century lives were built on.
Let's begin with Mrs. Emma King. Born in Kentucky in 1850. She's connected to you by marriage. Her husband was a distant cousin in this Love-Lewis line.
1850, wow. So she was a child when the country just fractured. She was only 11 when the Civil War began.
And just 15 when it ended.
Her entire childhood was defined by that conflict.
Absolutely. It's a crucial point. Her formative years were just steeped in conflict and uncertainty. Then, in 1867, she marries Isaac Sylvester King in Missouri.
1867. That puts her wedding right in the middle of the post-war Reconstruction era.
Squarely in the middle. And that was a period defined not just by, rebuilding, but by intense social, political, and often violent upheaval, especially in a border state like Missouri.
And then she has her daughter, Lula Mae King, in 1868, less than a year after getting married.
Right.
The sheer speed of that, of starting a family in that chaotic environment, it suggests this powerful drive for some kind of normalcy.
Absolutely. For stability amid the chaos. And the scarcity of records here also tells a story.
How so?
Well, we have her birth, her marriage, her daughter's birth. but her death date isn't specified. For women living through that kind of turbulence, especially in rural areas, official records can just go silent. It's important for you to remember that the context we're building here about her life during the war and Reconstruction, it relies on general historical information about that time and place.
Still, you think about that internal fortitude. I mean, she was literally putting down roots while the ground was still shaking from the war.
Indeed. And this period also happens to coincide with the very beginnings of the women's rights movement. So while Emma was probably focused on just, raising her family and surviving,
Right, the day-to-day.
the broader social climate was slowly beginning to shift, a change that her great-granddaughters in Texas would ultimately benefit from.
Okay, our final profile is Dora Hall, a direct blood relative in the Love Lewis line, born in April 1878 in Missouri.
Dora's life gives us a slightly more detailed snapshot of what that late 19th century rural life was like. The 1880 census shows her living in McMillan Township, McDonald County, Missouri. Her family, led by Henry Clay Hall, was tied directly to agriculture.
So rural farming life was her entire world.
It was the definition of her existence.
And she lived through the Spanish-American War, saw the start of World War I. Her life is documented until at least 1920.
And that 1880 census has another interesting little detail. Dora is listed as being of school age, and that highlights this balance that rural families in that era had to strike. While education was becoming more accessible after the Civil War, farm life demanded labor.
So her schooling would have been competing directly with the needs of the farm.
Absolutely. It's not like the, relative luxury of full-time schooling that the 20th century women we discussed would have experienced.
This raises an important question for comparison then. Dora lived through all this industrial growth, the rise of cities like San Antonio, but she was firmly rooted in agrarian Missouri. How does her experience of modernization, say, seeing a train or a telephone arrive, how does that differ from the rapid, urban, career-focused changes that Mary Elliott was navigating just a few decades later?
It's a fundamental contrast. Dora experienced modernization as something that came to the farm slowly. Maybe it was better equipment, maybe a mail-order catalog.
Whereas Mary and Ruth and the others?
They lived in the engine of modernization. Dora's resilience was about navigating nature and economics tied to the land. The 20th century women were navigating shifts tied to the industrial market, to technology. Her whole world was just far more dependent on the immediate environment of McDonald County.
And just like Emma, her death is only recorded as after 1920. That gap, that's a whole hidden chapter of her life.
It is.
What an immense journey through time. We've really examined 6 distinct lives here: Omi, Mary, Ruth, Lois, Emma, and Dora. It spans the entire spectrum of American development, from that Reconstruction chaos in Missouri all the way to the technological finish line of 2007 in Texas.
And you can see the threads, right? The incredible stability of Ruth and Fort Worth, the constant movement of Ami, the professional drive of Mary the stenographer.
Lois bridging that entire century, and then just the sheer grit of Emma and Dora holding families together in the turbulent 19th century.
So when you think about your visit to the Gilbert, Arizona temple for Lorelei and her siblings, remember that you're not just honoring names on a page. You are honoring the choices these women made.
Right.
The deliberate decisions to move, to stay, to work, and to build.
That knowledge provides real substance. It means when you reflect on your family's foundation, you know the sacrifices, you know the challenges of raising kids during systemic poverty, and the fortitude it took to get through national wars and economic depressions.
Absolutely. So as a final provocative thought for you to carry forward, the records are so rich for the 20th century lives. We get addresses, occupations. But for those 19th century anchors, the data just seen. It falls silent far too soon.
Yeah.
So consider the power of those gaps. What crucial defining choices were made by Emma King, born in 1850, and Dora Hall, whose life just disappears from the records after 1920. The lack of information itself encourages the deepest kind of inquiry into the determination and the quiet agency of the women who built your line. That's the story waiting for you to uncover.